this session, we're going to be talking about what it's like to drive in North America. And for the real English tip, we've got some great advice about how you can learn vocabulary faster and be able to use it in your speaking a lot easier.
This is the Real English Conversations podcast,
where you'll find the lessons and advice you need to be able to confidently use your English in the real world.
Hi everybody, it's Curtis and I'm here with Amy from Real English Conversations, and we're going to talk about driving in Canada and North America, and it all starts with getting your learner's license, right Amy?
Yeah, definitely. In order to be on the road behind the wheel of a vehicle, you've got to have a license. And the first thing that you do is you actually, at least in Canada, we do things in a very specific way. We have something called a graduated licensing program.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the United States does it differently.
Mm-hmm.
But you pick up this book and it has all the rules of the road.
Yeah, and you have to study it because you have to write a written test or something like that.
Yeah, it's been a long time, right, Curtis?
It's been a very long time for me, yeah.
So, yeah, you have to go in. There's a test that makes sure that obviously you've studied the book, you know about the rules of making a right-hand turn, for example, when you need to yield, when you need to stop, all of those sort of things.
Parallel parking.
Yep. And then if you pass the test, they give you a license, which you're able to drive a vehicle under the supervision of someone who has a proper license.
Right. Anyway,
we have in Canada, there's a phase where after you've had your training with whoever is teaching you, you come back and you get another license which has restrictions for a year or so until you pass your final exam and you're able to drive without all of the rules.
Is that your novice license?
Yeah, we call it the novice license period or something. I'm not sure the exact terminology. So who taught you how to drive?
I had a driving instructor, so I learned from a driving school, and I learned in the wintertime.
Ah, so your parents didn't want to teach you.
I think they were a little bit scared.
For me, my grandpa actually taught me because, of course, he was retired and he had time, and he had a small car that he could take me out, and we would drive around. I think we had to do 30 hours or something like that of practice before I was able to take my first driving test.
Right.
So that was really good. It was nice spending time with him, and of course, he was patient, and I didn't have to learn from a professional.
It probably didn't take you very long, too. You learn things really quickly, don't you?
It took me time. It takes a long time when you're learning how to drive initially. There's a lot of things that are happening all at the same time, and it's difficult to process all of that information. It takes practice before you start being able to observe things confidently and feel comfortable. So, yeah, I definitely was nervous when I took my test.
So after you go through all the exams and you reach that exciting point of getting your official license, what does it feel like when you're on the road for the first time? Is it exciting? Were you excited?
I think I was excited that I had passed the test and that I didn't have to worry about any of these extra rules that, might affect me not being we call it a Class 5 driver. That's like a normal driver's license. So I think for me that's more what it was about. But driving and being able to have a car sure gives you a lot of freedom, especially in the city that we were living in.
Yeah.
Like, what's the bus system like? Is it good?
No, it's not very good. It's
okay.
Yeah.
It's safe. Everything. The bus routes go all over the city and they arrive at a certain time at the bus stops. But
the timing and the schedules, it's not very good.
There's a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
So by having your own car and a driver's license,
Hmm.
what does it help you to do?
It helps you to be able to get to work on time. It helps you to be able to get from point A to point B quicker.
Yeah, yeah, without having to be restricted to a certain schedule, that a bus has, for example.
Hmm.
And I know for us, we really enjoy taking road trips.
Oh, yeah.
So, what are road trips?
Like little vacations,
Hmm.
I guess you could say. But you drive a certain distance, like 2 or 3 hours.
Sometimes further. Like some people go on road trips that are like, you could go on a road trip to California, for example, and maybe it's 30 hours, but
Yeah, you can go across the country.
you wouldn't do that in one day. You'd take breaks.
Yeah.
But the point is that you're traveling via a car.
Hmm.
It's not like you're taking a bus or a plane or something. You're able to stop whenever you see something cool.
Yeah, you get to see a lot more scenery and
Hmm.
things like that, so it can be fun in that way too.
Yeah, definitely. Now, one part about driving, and actually, I remember it was during a road trip. Have you ever got a ticket?
Yes.
We've
I,
both had tickets.
yeah, speeding tickets. This is where, you're going faster than the posted speed limit.
Yeah, there's like a special speed limit, and it changes depending on whether
Yeah.
you're in the city or on the highway or something like
You're
that.
only allowed to go a certain speed,
Hmm.
and if you go over that and there's a police officer waiting, he will pull you over
Yeah.
and he will give you a ticket with a very hefty fine if you're going really, really fast.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember for me, this was actually the thing that motivated me to finally get rid of that novice driver's license. And I got my first speeding ticket when I had that license. And the rules are actually if you get a fine
Yeah.
during that period
Hmm.
and they have time to process it, like it takes a few weeks for them to process it.
Yeah.
But if they process that fine and realize that you don't have your class 5 license, they'll actually take it away
Oh,
for a certain period of time. Like you lose your license.
wow.
So anyway, I went in to go pay my ticket, and the lady at the counter explained this to me,
Hmm.
and she's like, "So I would suggest you walk over there and book your road test before you lose your license." And luckily, I was able to do that,
Yeah.
and I got my license, and everything was fine.
Ooh,
Uh,
you got lucky.
yeah. What about you? What have you been pulled over for?
I've been pulled over for tailgating an
Oh
ambulance.
my God. I didn't think that was the story he was going to pick.
Now, this is a very, very bad thing to do. I don't recommend you doing
Okay,
this.
what's tailgating?
Tailgating is following somebody too close.
Hmm.
So, usually you have to leave a car length in between the car in front of you
Hmm.
and your car. And I, at that point,
Had a very, very bad habit of driving way too close.
right, and in between, or I was in between the emergency ambulance vehicle in front of me and a police car
Oh no.
behind me. But I didn't know it was a police car because it didn't have the lights.
Oh, it was a ghost car.
It was a ghost car or an
Sneaky.
unmarked car. Yeah.
Right, an unmarked car.
And right away, he turned on his lights that were on his dashboard and the front of his car
Hmm.
and his siren, and he was mad.
He was,
He
yeah.
was really mad. But I got lucky on that one too. Even though he was mad, he didn't give me a ticket.
Yeah, sometimes they let you off. They let you off the hook, or
Yeah,
I don't know. They give you, what is it, a warning?
a warning.
Yeah, they give you a warning. Don't do it again.
Oh yeah,
And it's a written warning, and it goes on record that you've been warned about this, but they don't actually give you a fine.
yeah. He kept track of it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I had last year actually. It had been a really long time since I had got a ticket, and We have, like, I believe most countries in the world are starting to implement traffic laws associated with talking on your cell phone, talking or texting on your cell phone.
Right.
And Curtis and I, we had a delivery business for years and years and years, and most of the communication was done through text messaging and stuff like that. And I mean, we were distracted drivers and fortunately had nothing happen to us, although I don't recommend it and would never do it again. But we definitely, had a lot of text messages and sending messages while we were driving.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was like karma or something like that, but of course I never got caught. All the years that we were doing deliveries and stuff, never got caught texting and driving or being on my phone while I was driving. But this one day I was late. I was coming from just the next town over from where we live. I had just finished with some friends out at the lake, and I was late, and I called Curtis to let him know, hey, can you get this stuff ready? We're going to go down to someone else's house, and I'm running behind.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find my Bluetooth, and that's the hands-free device.
Right, it goes in your ear.
So you don't have to touch your cell phone. You can just make a phone call, and it's really, really good. And I always have it. I use it every single day during my delivery shift. Whenever I'm in my car, I never, ever talk on my cell phone. And I didn't have it. So I picked up the phone because it was kind of like a side road, and I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. And sure enough, the sneaky cop comes flying up the road, and he saw me, and I thought, oh no, I was on my phone, he caught me. But he kept driving. And then all of a sudden, a minute or two later, here he was behind me. Lights on.
Yeah.
And I got a ticket. So anyway, moral of the story, don't drive distracted, even if it's not a law in your country. It's very, very dangerous.
Yeah. And this is the English conversation tip. So for the real English tip, today we're going to talk about vocabulary and some of the ways you can build it, not just build it quickly, but to understand it and to use it while you're speaking. And what are some of those ways we can do that, Amy?
Well, this is actually a really important thing because without knowing the most common vocabulary within English, you're going to have a difficult time understanding native speakers. It's going to be difficult to understand things that you read, and it's also going to be difficult to say whatever you want to say.
Yes.
So really, vocabulary continues to be an important part of your English development, all the way from beginner to upper advanced.
Exactly.
Of course, upper advanced, you're using words now that aren't the most common. You're using words that are more detailed.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the way that vocabulary is taught to you is by memorization. And this is the technique that you're supposed to use, right? They give you a list of words. The teacher gives you a list of words. They send you home. You memorize them. And then you come back to class the next day and you write a test.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting about that is that process does not involve listening to any of those words, and it doesn't involve using any of those words while you're speaking.
Yeah.
So what happens when you memorize a list of words, Curtis, and then you want to use it with your friend the next day?
Usually, if I have a list of words in my flashcard deck and I try to memorize them, I can't recall them the next time I want to use them. So it's really hard for me to remember them when I go to speak with my friend.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've been studying those words maybe for a couple weeks or something like that, and you really, really know them well, you might be able to use them within your speaking. But for the most part, if you've studied 20 or 30 words all at the same time and you've never heard those words and really you don't know how they sound very well, especially with English. English spelling and how it's said are completely different.
Yeah.
So you need to hear these words in order to have that association or connection with it, right?
Yeah.
So although you can pass a test with writing and you can do maybe multiple choice and select the correct vocabulary and do all of that stuff, in the real world, for the actual skills that you're going to need to understand native speakers and to be able to use them while you're speaking, this method of memorization is not very useful.
No.
So I'm actually going to talk about how you can not only improve your speaking skills,
Okay.
but you can learn vocabulary faster.
All right.
And this is actually one of the tips that I give in our speaking course that we have available on our website.
That's right.
So basically, when you are speaking about something and you realize you don't know a word in that moment and you look it up, because obviously you need it.
Yeah.
It's a word you need, a good one to learn. Okay, step one, learn the most common words.
Yeah.
And you look it up, and then right away you use it to finish explaining whatever you want to say.
Right.
Obviously, you can't do this in a live conversation with someone.
No.
I'm talking about techniques that we have within our course that you can do when you're not practicing with a native speaker, or maybe you don't have a native speaker to practice with.
Right.
But you're trying to complete an assignment where you explain something and you realize that you need this word. So you use it right away. And then maybe you try explaining whatever it is you're explaining again, and you actually have an opportunity to use that word again.
Yeah.
Now you've used it twice. Like, you've realized you needed it, you looked up that word, you looked at it, you listened to how it sounded, and then you used it a couple times. I can guarantee you, if you put that word into your list of flashcards and you look at it the next day, you're going to know that word.
You're going to remember that word.
And if you don't know it right away really, really well, just seeing it that one time is going to be enough to really make a strong connection to that word. And now you're not needing to spend all this time studying your list of words, because you're actually learning it a lot faster. And what's more important is that you've actually used it a few times.
Yeah.
So now it's an active word in your vocabulary, and you'll be able to use it in future conversations.
Right.
So anyway, if you want to get more tips like this so that you can learn faster and start speaking better in less time, you need to come to our website, realenglishconversations.com. Of course, you can sign up for our email list to get some of our free email lessons that we send out. But if you're serious about taking your English to the next level, make sure that you check out our courses, because the stuff that I'm sharing with you is just a very, very small amount of the amazing tips, activities, and techniques that you're going to get as a member of these courses.